Okay, so I have noticed that I admonish myself a lot when during my meditations, where I usually admonish myself whenever I observe if there is some thought popping up.
Isn't that fascinating? How one self can admonish another self at in the same level of consciousness. It's pretty extraordinary, huh?
Yeah,
So is it the real self that's admonishing, or the real self that's meditating?
the real self is meditating. It's just
Okay,
listening to
good,
this
good, good, good,
admonishment.
good. Good. So what happens when you admonish yourself?
Feelings pop up,
Yes.
body tenses up, I get angry or frustrated, and at the same time, I observe this, at least these days, that this itself is distracting and obscuring.
So maybe there's three of you. Who knows? Okay, what you're describing is a very, very, as a matter of fact, it's the rule, not the exception.
Yeah.
Thoughts will arise. They will arise just like clouds in the sky. But as sure as they arise, they will also go away. Right? They'll just go away unless you follow them. So your job is not to not have thoughts, but to let the thoughts just come and go. Come and go. Come and go. And you have to be willing to drop it, even if you screw up and you start following a thought.
Yeah.
Right? You just drop it as soon as you realize what you're doing. And you'll get better and better at it. Pretty soon those thoughts won't bother you at all. They'll just be passing through your mind like clouds in the sky. Nothing to worry about, nothing to attend to. And that's normal.
That's the thing. Sometimes, yeah, like you said, but at the same time, there is no control over it, and there is frustration because
just don't get on the train. And okay, so to make it easier for yourself, what you could do, and I still do this sometimes, if it's needed, you could just count from 1 to 10 your breaths.
Yes.
All right? Or you could just focus on your breath. So now, as the thoughts arise, you don't have to argue with them. You don't have to get upset. You don't have to admonish yourself. What you do is you return your attention to the breath or to the number. Now, when you're counting up, like you say you count one number per breath.
Yeah.
You're gonna lose track, right? Your mind's gonna wander. When it does, just start back again at 1. And you'll be lucky to make it to 5, right? But maybe one day you'll make it to 10. I don't know. But usually you only get to like 3, and you have to start over at 1. But use the number as a placeholder in your mind, because the mind abhors a vacuum. Mind abhors a vacuum. So give it something to fill itself, either attention on the breath or counting or conceivably a mantra, and then just return to that every time you start to get bothered by these pesky thoughts, and it will always arise.
But a thing that I foresee here is another admonishment which says, oh, I could only reach till breath number 3, not breath number 4.
If you make it to 3.
Yeah.
So, okay, so that you just have to wear out. That's just silliness.
What?
That you just say, well, that's crazy talk. I'm not going to pay any attention to it. This is not a contest. You're trying, it's like, okay, let me give an example. Do you know how to train an elephant to stay in one space and not leave that space? Do you know how that's done?
No.
Okay, so what the elephant trainer does is they put a long rope, say, let's say 50 feet, and they wrap it around the foot of the elephant, right?
Okay.
One of the feet. And they just leave it like that for the day and the night. And so the elephant has like a 100 foot radius to walk around in. the next day they shorten it by a foot, right?
Yeah. Okay.
So now it only has it has a smaller space to walk around in. The next day they shorten it by another foot, and so on and so forth. So they get down to about 3 feet, and the elephant realizes that, just accepts the fact that he can't move beyond, a 3-foot radius, right?
Got it. Yeah.
And then they remove the stake, and the elephant stays there.
This is just conditioning.
This is true with other mammals as well. So basically, if you to train the elephant, you gradually bring it in closer and closer and closer, and then it just assumes that it's still tied, but it's not tied, but it just stays there. That's literally how they do it. And you could do the same thing with your monkey mind.
That's just conditioning.
Let it rattle around in the cage, right?
Yeah.
Your mind is like a drunk monkey on steroids, right?
Yes.
Okay, but it's not going to help for you to have a feeling about that. In fact, everybody's got a monkey mind.
Yeah.
So don't make yourself into something special, and you won't admonish yourself. You'll say, oh, well, I've got a brain like everybody else and a mind like everybody else. There's nothing special about what you're describing.
Okay.
Everybody who's meditated has been through this.
Yes.
And that's why patience is considered a virtue. You have to be patient. And you have to try different things to see what works best for you. But there's nobody that's going to train your elephant except for you.
Got it.
But it takes some time and it takes some patience.
So, a segue, I guess. I had a thing about thought. So, is it correct? So, is it correct to say thoughts are important for day-to-day activities, but
are they?
Maybe you want to order something. Maybe you want to plan on something.
Yeah, maybe you want to get on a bus at a certain time.
Yes.
Okay, so let's say let's call that 30 thoughts.
Yeah.
And what about the rest of the day?
Yeah, those are not needed.
Yeah, but they're there anyway, right?
Yeah.
Whether you want them or not. That's the nature of the brain. The brain is never quiescent unless you anesthetize it. Even in your sleep, your brain is active.
Yeah.
And even with anesthesia, it's active, in some parts of it. But you're just not aware of the thoughts. So that's just the equipment you're given, right?
Yes.
You've got 5 fingers, 5 toes, hopefully, and a brain that won't stop. Speaking generally.
Yes.
All right?
Yeah, but I was just going to say, are these thoughts a hindrance when it comes to Dharma work? But now
Yeah, well, they are if you let them be.
Yeah. Right.
Otherwise, they're just an obstacle, that has to be dealt with.
Yes. Yeah.
And welcome to the human race. That's our problem.
Yeah, I think
we've got monkey brain. We got monkey brains and monkey minds.
Yes. So again, this is what I've noticed. I may be using words awareness and consciousness interchangeably, but
I'm sorry, I didn't understand that. Say it again.
So this is another thing that I observed, and before talking about it, I am just giving a preface that I may be using awareness and consciousness interchangeably. But
okay.
What?
All right, you've defined your terms good.
So what I've observed is, like you said, the thoughts, if I give attention to them, then I feel it obscures things.
It does.
And when you're just aware of it, it's just like it's there, coming up, going, coming up, going, like the way, like the sound that comes up and goes, or the things in front of me comes up and goes.
Like everything in the universe,
Yeah.
dependent on your time scale. Okay.
Yes. I don't know, but ironically, all these things, this analysis, is also happening within this awareness itself.
Okay.
Like this can go on and on, like this again, awareness, like this is.
Yeah, no. Sooner or later, you die, or even before that, you go to sleep, and you're not aware of the thoughts unless you're dreaming.
So, wouldn't you say that awareness is limited in this case? Like it can't be aware of anything else than what is happening right now?
No, that's okay. So now you're using awareness with a small a and consciousness with a small c.
Okay. How is it different? Like I know what consciousness is because I can't explain it to you. I know what is right now happening. I'm talking to you and I'm hearing your words. I keep using I.
Are you understanding me though? For example. So what's your question?
What's my question? My question is, how do you differentiate small awareness versus bigger awareness?
You don't. See, you're positing a fabricated something that's not real, that you made up in your mind, a fantasy. You're contrasting that with reality. Reality is totally different than fantasy or imagination.
I guess you can say this fantasy is within this reality.
You could say that, but it's arbitrary. For example, let's say you were adopted away at birth, and you were raised by, I don't know, us Indians in the southwest of the United States, and you were used to having face paint and loincloths and riding on horses and shooting bows and arrows. Okay. Would that still be you?
No. I will be aware of these things.
So you is totally conditional. And what you're calling you is just a narrative that you're telling yourself. We can't find the you, in your brain anywhere.
But
we can find a homunculus that could, describes the physical body, the sensations and that such of stuff. But we don't have a center that we could call a you in the brain because there's not one there. This has been studied for thousands of years. And now even with modern neuroscience, it's the same conclusion. So what you think is real is imagining that you understand what's going on here.
I mean, the way I talk it about to you will always result in that.
No. See, that's another narrative you're telling yourself. So you're making up stories. You have some information that you've read somewhere or you've gleaned from something or another, some YouTubes or whatever, and you think that making up a narrative to go along with that will be sufficient, but it's not. You have to know it. You have to experience it. You have to become it. And that's called waking up.
This is where I am. I don't know what to do. What is a narrative and what is not. Only thing I know is...
It's all a narrative. Everything is a narrative right now.
But who is aware of this narrative?
I don't know.
I'm saying.
You think you know. I don't know. I know you probably don't know. As a matter of fact, I know you don't know.
How do I not know? Because I am aware of these things. What I'm positing is the one that is aware of these things is me. But again,
what is this one that you keep talking about?
Not the one who is conscious of everything. The one who is conscious of you speaking to me and me speaking.
But you aren't conscious. You're not conscious of everything. You're conscious of a very, very narrow little stream of information, and you're conscious of your memories and your fantasies about the future. And you're calling that it?
But so what I'm saying is, I'm conscious of about it. I'm conscious about the present as well, and by virtue of that, because of that, I'm also conscious about present and future, because all those things, those thoughts are again happening right now.
Okay, now. If I put you under anesthesia, would you be conscious? Would you call yourself conscious?
Yes.
All right. What would you be conscious of?
Nothing. And I won't remember anything. Again, this is just speculating me.
Okay, but that's a fair speculation. Okay. All right, so what's your question?
My question is still the same. Like, how? I know there's no point in no. Not necessarily.
Do you suffer anymore?
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know whether there is a why, but the suffering is again happening in this awareness. And
okay, but why would awareness suffer? Why would your awareness suffer?
I wouldn't say it would suffer. It would feel some feelings. It will be aware of certain sensations and things that's happening. It's just that I discriminate those sensations.
So do you suffer or not?
Suffering is discrimination of feelings that say, oh, this is bad.
Okay, so you suffer?
Yes.
Why?
I suffer. Why? I can think of two things. One is physical pain.
Is there anything that you lack in this universe?
Is there anything I lack in this universe? What does it mean to lack?
See, the awareness I'm speaking of is a final piece. Is a final, piece is a good word. Or a final truth, or a final truth, or absolute love, or something along those lines. And it doesn't draw a boundary around itself, because that's nonsensical. So you've carved out a little piece of reality and you say, well, this is my consciousness. Correct?
Yeah, because, yeah.
Can you see how that creates a problem?
My consciousness.
Okay, give me a line between your consciousness and real consciousness. What's the boundary of your consciousness?
Okay, so for me, it's more like I don't have any proof that you are conscious.
Fair enough.
So the only guarantee I have, I know for sure, is at least I am definitely conscious, because I'm aware of everything that's going on right now.
No, you're not. You're only aware of a few things that you're paying attention to at the moment. So what is the boundary of yourself? How far does yourself go?
The boundary again comes back to physicality. Again, physicality doesn't have any proofs.
Okay, so it comes to your skull and your skin.
I know. It looks like it comes from there. I don't know.
Okay, so that's foundationally different than awareness with a capital A or consciousness with a capital C or truth with a capital T or love with a capital L or beauty with a capital B.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I think you're a clever man, and I think you've done some very, useful thinking. But I think you need to ask yourself, well, wait a minute, if this is true, then why am I suffering still? And why do I think there's a limit to my me? And how do I draw that limit? How do I draw that boundary? And what is the boundary made of?
Mm.
Are you familiar with Markov blankets?
I have heard of it, but...
Okay, never mind. It's not going to be useful to you at this moment. But let me ask you, is your liver conscious?
That is another question I had.
Well,
no.
How do you ask that?
The question here is, are cells conscious?
It's able to sense, it's able to act in response to a stimuli. It can suffer. But anyway, okay, we're getting a little bit trivial. So the point is here that until you know what consciousness is, you can't say that you have it in the sense that we're speaking of it, right? I'm using the words that you defined at the beginning.
Yeah.
You defined awareness and consciousness as synonyms.
Yes.
And I'm trying to differentiate between the small c consciousness, which is your everyday ordinary mind, and the large C consciousness, which is all there is.
Is there anything that you can do to guide me to the large C consciousness?
Is there anything I can do to what?
Guide me to the large C.
Yeah, the Avatamsaka Sutra is like guaranteed to work. But you have to, it takes some time to read that sutra. And your mind needs to be able to zoom in and out of time scales and size scales. I mean, basically, the relativity that Einstein described is foundational to Dharma.
But is it necessary?
In the 21st century. So, like I said, this sutra is a surefire way to do it.
Okay.
It's not easy.
Yeah, okay.
It's not for the lazy. God doesn't care much for the lazy. Yeah, as you may have noticed.
Yeah.
Truth doesn't care much for the lazy. Now, suffering loves the lazy. Right? So, I mean, it's your choice. And some people choose suffering over joy. I mean, obviously, I can't choose for you.
Yeah.
Another thing you could do is, have you read Eckhart Tolle's books?
Yes, The Power of Now and The New York.
You could reread those. to give you encouragement or something. Also, there's a lot of good practical things in there. Do you know the story of the frogs in the well?
No. Is it? Okay.
A frog one day decided to visit another frog at the bottom of a well. The frog at the bottom of the well frog, said, "Welcome to my abode." And the guest frog said, "Oh, this is very nice. You have a lake here, and that's nice." And he says, "Lake? I've got the largest lake in the world." That's what the well frog says. "And this is all mine. Look at this magnificent lake. Look how big it is. There's no bigger lake in the world than this." And the guest said, "Well, it's nice, but I'm not sure you could say it's the biggest lake in the world." And the well frog says, "What? What are you talking about? I know this is my lake, and I'm proud of it because it's the largest in the world." And the guest frog says, "Well, I guess we can just leave it at that." But the well frog gets upset. And so finally the guest frog says, "Well, I tell you what, let's go look and see. I think I know where there's a bigger body of water." And the well frog says, "Let's go." And so the two of them get out of the well and start hopping. And, they start hopping west. And they hop for a while, like an hour or so. And then they get to these hills. And these hills are actually sand dunes. And so then they hop up to the top of the sand dunes, right? And the whale frog sees the ocean for the first time. And his head explodes. So, it's analogous to that.
Yeah.
You're comparing a little well, a little circle, a little dot of consciousness. Maybe, I don't know, maybe it's a mile wide, I don't know. But it's infinitesimally small compared to reality. And reality is so hard to grok that you have to do it slowly. And that's what the Flower Ornament Sutra or the Avatamsaka Sutra is good for. It introduces you slowly and through a method that works, right? To the reality of our reality. You can't even grok the size of this universe, or you can't grok the time scales of this universe with an unprepared mind. And you can't grok the Planck length, and you can't grok the 32 billion light years. I asked the AI just for fun. I said, compare the number of stars to the number of grains of sand on all the beaches in the world of Earth.
Yeah.
Which do you think there's more of, stars or grains of sand?
Stars, I would say.
Yeah, it's stars. That's how many stars there are. Now, can you wrap your head around that? Because they aren't densely packed, particularly from the human point of view.
No.
Okay, well, that's why you got to prepare your mind.
Wait.
There's such a thing as premature illumination, too, Shaw talks about it. The Zen people talk about it. I know about it, right?
Oh.
And if you're not prepared, you can mess yourself up.
So can you expound a bit on that? Like, what do you mean by mess myself up during premature?
Well, I wouldn't worry about it until you have premature. If you have a premature awakening, then we'll talk about it.
Okay.
But sometimes you see people limping around India or down in some Caribbean island with their groupies, their little cults, and they're just half baked, right?
But are they awakened there? Or are they just...
They're partially awakened, but then it's easy to fall over.
Okay, so what do you mean by partial
That's
awakening?
it's all hypothetical. Look, it's like talking. You want to ask a question about your graduation exercises from Cal Berkeley in physics for a PhD, but you're still an undergrad. Yeah, let's not worry about that one yet.
Okay, got it. No, I was just going to point out what do you mean by partial awareness, so that I can be aware of it myself. Whether am I going in wrong direction?
What I meant by what awareness? What was the word you used?
Partial awareness.
No, I did. I said premature.
Oh, I heard
That's
you.
very different than partial.
I think you used partial awareness for the people who...
It's partial enlightenment.
Yeah, partial.
If I said partial awareness,
okay, yeah.
I probably misspoke.
Yeah, okay, got it. Okay.
In the old days, some of these guys would get themselves crucified or burned at the stake, or they'd do some crazy stuff or some Sufi because he just went around yelling, "I am God," right? Because that's one way of looking at it, right?
Yeah, that.
Yeah. And so they basically just burned him at the stake. That's not a happy outcome, I don't think.
No.
So it's you got to there's a reason why people have taken so much effort to create these tools for us. Just think about the work that went into the sutra.
Yeah, that would be pretty huge. But I think it has been going on through generations, passed down from...
Been going on as long as India's been around, I think.
Yeah, I think it's being passed around from one patriarch to another patriarch.
At times, and at other times they didn't use that. Yeah. With Zen, they only had 5 patriarchs. Because that model will also start to rot.
Oh, yeah. Everything rots. I think, Zen also came into being because they saw that Buddhism at that time was again tightly intertwined with the state and various...
Yeah, people were just worshipping the Buddha, right?
Yeah,
worshipping the Buddha so they could have a bigger crop or be lucky in love or something. So that's not what this is about. I think
even in the...
This is about becoming a Buddha, becoming a Bodhisattva.
Yeah. I think in Zen Conversations book as well, they say that all these things are expedient in turn. And these all things must also be dropped off to be the Buddha.
I'm sorry, all these things must be what, expediently done?
These techniques are again expedient. We talk about Buddha and not about.
Yeah.
And those things must also be dropped eventually.
Yeah, when you reach God, he's not sitting in a lotus position with a name tag that says, Buddha on it. But these are just ways because the human mind needs something more concrete at first.
Yes.
How far along are you in the sutra?
I have not been reading it for 1 to 2 weeks. I need to read it again. Yeah.
Yes. If you want to wake up, you do.
Yes.
Or its equivalent. Do you have any questions from texts?
Yes. One question from the teachings of Zen.
All right.
So there is this chapter called Clarity and Calmness on page 178.
Okay. I don't have the book with me.
Okay. So here, let me just talk about it or just dictate that. So the chapter is clarity and calmness? When stopping and seeing have no entryways, then oblivion and distraction are used for doors. When oblivion and distraction have no ground, clarity and calmness are the sources. Thus, those who travel the way unfailingly make skillful use of the fire of stopping and seeing to burn off the dross of oblivion and distraction. Once the refinement is complete, the essence of stopping and seeing becomes concentration and insight. Thus, sages may overturn heaven and earth without being disturbed. This is the power of concentration. They make penetrating investigation into all things without getting confused. This is the efficacy of insight. If this is so, then in ordinary people, clarity and calm are oblivion and distraction, while in sages, oblivion and distraction are concentration and insight.
You know what that reminds me of? When I was younger than you are now,
Okay.
and I went to school at Cambridge, not far from MIT,
Okay.
and I happened to be at MIT, and the Dalai Lama, who I knew nothing about, was debating the best neuroscientists we had, including some that were going to go on to win the Nobel Prize. And his clarity and his calmness were like incredible. I mean, it's like you could feel it across the entire, lecture hall. And he was so different than any of them because he didn't have an agenda. They were all trying to prove that their labs were doing the best work, or this model that they had proposed was the right one, or whatever. And he was just interested and curious. And then at the end of it all, he proposed 3 or 4 experiments, all of which were, in retrospect, obvious, and which they went ahead and did, right? And so it's really stunning to see somebody with those features. It's really amazing.
Okay.
And that's what happens with those gurus. If you have an authentic, enlightened guru, the reason people crowd around is because at some point or another they can sense that presence. I presume, I imagine Ramana Maharshi had that effect. And other people, monetize that, and that's too bad. But, and if they may be fakes. But at any rate, it's palpable. Okay, so what's the question?
A thing about that though, if they know what the reality is, how can they monetize it? Or will there be any motivation to monetize it? Maybe this.
Well, they got to make a living, but the one I'm thinking of is a woman from India. Her name starts with an M, and she tours the United States and Europe, and she rents out a big hall, and people come in, and then they light up to be blessed by her, and everybody's all decked out in their best Indian clothes and jewelry and stuff.
No.
Mainly Anglos, but Indian people too. And do you know her name?
No, I don't.
And people make donations. And she needs money to continue the tour. And I don't know I don't know anything about her. I happened to be at one of those things by accident with a friend. And I couldn't get close enough to really tell what was going on, but it just seemed a lot of it was just emotional.
Got it. Yeah.
So if it's emotional like that, then it's probably not. Although there can be some emotion, but not like that. And people were getting in weird postures, and this one white guy, probably American, was hopping off the floor, and this kind of what he was calling kundalini explosions or whatever. It was a big show.
Yeah,
it's kind of like a circus had come to town.
Yeah.
What was her name? Famous lady. Famous in India too, I think.
Starting with an. I haven't heard.
M. I think it started with an M.
No.
At any rate, people equate fame with realization too, which is a big mistake.
Oh, I have noticed those things in myself as well.
That's okay. That's okay when you're just starting out. I mean, you don't know better.
No. Yeah. So I am sometimes aware of these thoughts and notice that these things are absurd and just pure speculation. But I also realize it is also a pretty good gateway to know what my motivations are. At least.
It's a superb way.
Yeah.
It's the best way.
Yeah.
And I'm a psychiatrist, right? So I know all about, psychotherapy and all this and that. Dharma is the best way to get clarity on what you're about.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
again, because of that, sometimes I just admonish myself again. But again, I know this itself.
Okay, so make friends with your admonishing mind.
Yeah, I'm doing that.
I've got this monkey in my mind, and it always comes back, and wants to admonish me. And when it's not supposed to be admonishing, you just, offer it a peanut or something and let it go. But don't make it into an enemy. Don't make it bigger than it is. Don't wash blood.
Yeah.
It says, don't fight thought with thought.
Yeah.
And don't fight guilt with guilt or with anger. Just be calm. Let it come and go.
Yeah.
Everything in this universe is coming and going.
Yeah.
It's the nature of this universe that we happen to be in. This go round.
Another thing that I've noticed in myself is I use a lot of these thoughts to run away from the present feelings. For example, I've noticed this a lot when there is some abnormal sensation and all. Rather than being with it, because again, I can't escape it, I try my best to escape it by going into thoughts about how it won't happen or why it will happen. And just...
It doesn't work, does it?
No, it doesn't. And this is the crucial thing that I've observed, this observation that I've been using these thoughts as a anesthesia for myself, and it's not working now.
Good. So now you have to move to a higher level of defense. I'm going to just use psychological terms now. So what's happening is you had a coping mechanism, and we'll call it in the old days we call these mechanisms of defense, psychological defense. And the one that you used to have, and the one that you probably still have little pieces of, is something akin to hypochondriasis or somatization or conversion disorder, where you focus on some, your knee starts to hurt, and then you think, oh my God, my knee's going down, or oh, I got knee cancer, or oh, I got leukemia, it's starting in my knees, or oh, I've got gout. And so that crowds everything out of your life. Everything's out, and you can just focus on your one problem, whatever it may be. But it's all imagined, right?
Yeah.
The reality is that you're just getting older. You have a pain in your knee. So that's a relatively primitive mechanism of defense. Now you can move up the ladder to a healthier mechanism of defense, which would be something like intellectualization or displacement or, whatever it may be. I don't want to put ideas in your head. And then from there, you can go to a higher level of defense, right?
Yeah.
Or you could just skip over all the intermediate ones, the neurotic ones like intellectualization and displacement and acting out and things like that. And be glad you're not using projection. That's a horrible defense. And then you go to the kings of defense mechanisms, the top of the top, that would be humor. No. Avoidance is a neurotic defense. It's not the worst, but it's far from the best. The best are humor, altruism, and sublimation. And so if you can sublimate your suffering into a quest for truth using Dharma, then you've won at the game of life. you've won as a human being.
Good.
Because there's very few endeavors when at the end of your life, when you're old and frail and almost dead, or you're ready to die, and you look back on your life and you think, well, what did I devote my life to? If you devoted it to painting vintage cars, well, maybe that's fine for some people. But for others, and I suspect you're like this, it's not going to be adequate. And the other reason to get centered and oriented in this cosmos is because of the machines, right? The AIs.
Yeah.
It's going to be incredible. In your lifetime, you're going to see all kinds of crazy stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
For good and for bad. And so you have to be centered in the cosmos. You got to know what's real and what's not. And that's another good reason. Okay. Any other questions before we stop?
I had this just one question. Again, I may be asking a question of why that might again go lead to other thoughts. My aim right now is to alleviate my suffering or just not to suffer or waste my energy on these thoughts. How will realizing my true self solve this? Because from logical standpoint, I don't get this.
It just doesn't affect you anymore. You're just not affected by it anymore. It doesn't have any impact. The worst thought in the world doesn't have any impact on you. Because you're not your body. You have a body. You are not your mind. You have a mind. And the you that has a body and has a mind is the you that you're trying to discover. No, you don't need any help finding the one that is your body and is your mind. But you're intuiting that there must be something there, because even as you admonish yourself and then you admonish yourself for admonishing yourself, another self is watching the whole thing calmly.
Yes, I know that. That's what I know that.
Good. Now get to know that self.
How? I guess this is what turning around the light is. And
that's part of it. You've got to use everything you've got. That's the requirement. I mean, there's no gate there. There's nothing keeping you out. But you've got to tear down the wall that you've built around the truth in yourself. And that's not easy to do. In retrospect, it seems like the most obvious thing in the world. But the small I blocks the gate that leads to the big self.
But that blocking of the gate itself is...
It's nothing. It's a magic.
Yeah.
It's a gateless gate. You'll get there. It's just going to take a little bit more effort and devotion and dedication than you've given anything in your life.
Yes.
All right. So that's the price of admission for you. Everybody's paid a high price. I mean, look at the Tolle, look at Krishnamurti, look at Ramana Maharshi. Everybody's paid a price, right?
Yes.
I mean, I'm just naming names that I think you know. There's in history. There's lots of people.
Yeah, no, definitely. These are just...
All right, sir.
Yeah.
Anything else before we stop?
No.
All right, it's good. Take good care. You got it. In order to make this happen, you got to make it happen.
Yes.
All right, sir. Adios.
Thank you.